What if one dive changed everything and then vanished into silence? Yuri and Elena took on the most terrifying underwater cave, a place shrouded in darkness, mystery, and fear. No one had returned before them, and as they descended, the silence grew thick, heavy, and deadly. What happened deep inside that cave? Was it an accident or something far worse? Don't miss this chilling story of a dive that ended without a sound, and the secrets the ocean refuses to reveal. Watch now, before the silence swallows it all. It started with a simple call, a call that would change everything. Yuri, a professional deep diver with years of experience, received a message about a rare diving opportunity. A sunken cave system deep in the Mediterranean Sea, barely explored, extremely dangerous, and nearly impossible to map. But it was also said to be breathtaking and deadly. For Yuri, the risk was worth it. He had chased depth all his life. Every dive, every descent was a chance to find something no one else had. But this time, it wasn't just about adventure, it was personal. A close friend of his had vanished in this same area years ago, and the cave had never been fully explored since. The diving community called it the Silent Pit. Dark, narrow, and miles deep. Many divers avoided it, calling it cursed. But Yuri wasn't like them. He felt ready. He convinced his team, reviewed old footage, and prepared mentally for what might be the most terrifying dive of his career. The call wasn't just a phone call. It was a call from the deep, a challenge. A whisper in the back of his mind, "Come see what lies below." And Yuri answered it, with confidence, and a quiet fear he didn't speak out loud. Yuri knew this wasn't going to be an ordinary dive. The preparation had to be perfect. One mistake could mean death. For days, he and his team studied maps, checked equipment, and planned every step. Oxygen tanks were tested and retested. Lights, backup lights, underwater cameras, and emergency beacons, all packed with precision. He chose his most trusted partner, Elena, someone who had saved his life once before during a dangerous underwater mission. Together, they reviewed past dive data, including the last known footage from Yuri's missing friend. The video had ended in static, no explanation, no clues, just silence. The team rented a boat and anchored above the entrance of the cave. The sea was calm, almost too calm. It was as if the ocean knew what was coming. Yuri stood at the edge of the boat, suited up in his heavy black diving gear. His heartbeat was steady, but his mind raced with what-ifs. Still, he pushed his fear aside. He checked his watch one last time. Oxygen full, light working, radio connected. This wasn't just about exploration anymore. It was about uncovering the truth and returning from where others never did. As Yuri and Elena took their final breath before the dive, one question echoed in both their minds. Are we truly ready for what's down there? With a final nod, Yuri and Elena slipped beneath the surface. The world above vanished in seconds. All that remained was the sound of their breathing and the quiet hum of their gear. The light from the sun faded quickly as they dropped deeper and deeper into the ocean. Every meter down brought more pressure, more darkness, and more silence. The entrance to the cave looked like a giant mouth, wide, black, and waiting. Most would stop here, but not Yuri. He adjusted his flashlight and led the way in. The walls were rough, covered in ancient coral and strange markings. The space narrowed, forcing them to move slowly and carefully. The water was cold, too cold, and strangely still. As they descended into the cave, something shifted. The water felt heavier, the silence thicker. It wasn't like other dives. It felt alive, like the cave was watching. Yuri glanced at Elena. Her eyes were focused, but tight with tension. She felt it too. They were now 100 meters in, no going back easily. The light behind them had vanished. Only the beams from their flashlights showed the way forward. Yuri's hand brushed against the cave wall. It pulsed slightly, as if it had a heartbeat. They continued their slow descent into the unknown, and with every meter down, the silence grew louder. The deeper Yuri and Elena went, the darker it became. Their flashlights cut through the black water, but beyond the beams, there was only darkness, thick, endless, and swallowing. The cave walls closed in tighter, and the pressure on their bodies increased. The water felt heavier, colder, like it was squeezing the air from their lungs. Yuri's breathing grew slower, controlled, but Elena's fingers tightened around her gear. Something wasn't right. The usual sounds of the ocean, bubbles, distant sea life were gone. Only their own breathing echoed back at them. Suddenly, the radio crackled. A faint sound, almost a whisper. Then silence again. They tried to speak, but the radio gave no clear reply. It was like the cave swallowed all sound. Yuri glanced around. The darkness seemed to press closer, wrapping them in a silent trap. A strange chill ran down his spine. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was warning them. The cave had secrets, dark secrets. They pushed on, heartbeats pounding louder than the stillness around them. In that endless dark, fear was no longer far away. It was right beside them. Lost suddenly, everything changed. Yuri checked his instruments. No signal. The guideline they had laid was nowhere to be seen. Alina's light flickered and then died. Panic started to creep in. They were lost. The walls around them seemed to close tighter, twisting in shapes that made it impossible to tell which way was out. Yuri tried to call Alina, but his radio was dead. Only static answered back. Their breaths quickened. The familiar path they had planned was gone, swallowed by darkness and silence. Time felt distorted, like they had been stuck there for hours. Yuri reached out, fingers brushing cold rock, searching for the guideline. But it wasn't there. Not anywhere. Alina's voice cracked through the silence, barely audible, filled with fear. "Yuri, where are we?" No answer came, only the crushing stillness of the cave. They were trapped deep underground, surrounded by cold water and thick silence. The terrifying truth hit them: no one knew where they were. And worse, no one could hear their cries for help. Silence, the silence was absolute. No bubbles, no voices, no sounds. Only a heavy, crushing quiet that pressed against Yuri and Elena from every side. Their radios remained dead, their flashlights dim, and the cold seemed to seep into their bones. Yuri tried to stay calm, signaling to Elena with slow hand gestures. But even the slightest movement felt swallowed by the silence, as if the cave itself absorbed every sound and motion. Minutes stretched endlessly. Their breathing was the only proof they were still alive. Yet even that seemed faint in the oppressive stillness. The silence wasn't just empty, it was alive. It whispered warnings, spun fears, and cloaked the dive in a dreadful mystery. Yuri's mind raced. Had their missing friend met this same silence? Was this the reason no one had ever returned from this dive? The ocean around them felt like a grave. The silence, the last thing anyone would ever hear. In that terrifying quiet, hope began to fade. Echo days passed after Yuri and Elena's disappearance. Rescue teams searched the waters above the cave, but found nothing. No trace, no signal, no sound. Only one thing remained, an eerie echo in the diving community. Stories whispered about the dive that ended in silence, about the cave that swallowed two brave souls without a trace. Yuri's last radio message, a faint crackle of static before cutting off, became a chilling legend. Experts debated what really happened deep below. Was it equipment failure, an unknown underwater force, or something darker? The silence from the cave echoed in everyone's minds, a haunting reminder of the ocean's secrets. For Yuri's friends and family, hope turned to grief. For explorers, it became a warning. Some places are better left alone. And in the dark depths, the cave waits, silent and patient, holding its mysteries close, waiting for the next call that dares to answer its deadly whisper. The most terrifying dive ended not with a scream, but with an echo, a silence that speaks louder than words. If you found this dive as haunting as we did, hit subscribe and join the conversation. What do you think caused the silence deep in the cave? Share your thoughts below! And don't miss our next video, Lost in the Coldest Place on Earth with No Way Out, coming soon.